As I like to do whenever Steam Next Fest rolls around, I sat down and played through a ton of demos just to tell you which ones I think are the best. I played more than 20 demos for this video, but some of them had to be cut out because they were either not interesting at all or barely functioning. We don't have any time to spare, so let's jump into it. 21-minute reviews of demos for some of the best upcoming games. This is exactly the type of game that we need more of. Who said AA games are dead? Robocop Rogue City does the incredible feat of making a good Robocop game in 2023. I don't think this game is gonna win any awards, but it's definitely doing something special because it has a ton of heart and soul poured into it. It looks like a dumb first-person shooter where you play as Robocop, and it is 100% committed to making you feel like a tin can of a man walking down a hallway very slowly and then shooting people down and throwing them out windows. But it also has a semi-open world zone-based RPG, and it has conversation trees and a level-up system with skill trees and even skill checks. There's just a lot of energy here from late PS2 games. It reminds me of things like Urban Chaos and Condemned Criminal Origins from the 360. I love it. Not every game needs to be a AAA banger. This is just a fun demo, and I recommend you play it. Kristala is a Souls-like through and through, so let me list out what you can expect. Weapons and armor, light and heavy attacks, bonfires, Estus flasks, magic, special moves, things it does differently, stealth, active platforming, you play as a cat, that's really important. I think this game has a certain charm to it. It kind of feels like a Souls-like if it were made during the PS2 mascot era of gaming, and that gives it a special spark for me. The game is, however, very unpolished and far from being in a releasable state. To be fair, even the executable is labeled as pre-alpha. And it shows. Certain animations, some of the lighting, and especially the UI, could use a lot of work and a lot of polish. It just feels like something that hasn't been finished yet. But maybe in the future, when it is finished, it has something special to it. It is definitely competent enough so far, enough for me to keep an eye on it. So maybe wishlist it and see how it goes. Also, you play as a cat. Songs of Silence is a deck builder strategy game, kind of a 4X. You might get some Civilization vibes from it. You get some really fast-paced and fun combat using those cards in this more RTS environment, with then traditional map control, economy, and resource management. Moving out your units throughout the map to hold certain positions, and then you level them up throughout that mission, and you get stronger and get access to more units. And I'm excited for the full release. Production values seem very high all around, with things like very good voice acting on average. And the power fantasy of building up a strong army and demolishing your opponents is one that I always enjoy, and this provides. Also, in case you hadn't noticed, it looks beautiful. Like, I love the art style of this game. So this one is a strong recommend. Go check out Songs of Silence. This might shock you, but this is a driving game centered on drifting. I mainly played it to know how arcadey or not it is, and it falls somewhere around the Forza Horizon level of arcade. So it is arcade, but not all the way. This is not my kind of game. I'm more of a Hot Wheels, Mario Kart, or Trackmania kind of person. But hey, if you want to drift in Japan a lot, then I think this game might be good for you. It's pretty high on the demo popularity list, so it has that going for it, so maybe this is for you. I don't know. I need you to follow me through this description. The Last Faith is a Metroidvania Souls-like, but with a strong tinge towards the Castlevania element, and also it's just 2D Bloodborne and Castlevania. This game has beautiful artwork and animations, satisfying and complex enough combat mechanics with different weapons and spells, and it also has challenging boss fights. It still needs some polish on some things, like generally the audio, some of the samples and some of the mixing wasn't that great, but it's highly polished in other regards with great voice acting, for example. The level design seems to be pretty good from what we see in the demo, and it has those Bloodborne vibes, and for me, that Bloodborne is in my top 3 games of all time, this makes me happy. If you like Metroidvanias, even though it's an oversaturated genre right now, I think this one is a standout. I recommend you check it out if you're into the more Castlevania or Bloodborne aspect of these sorts of games, because you might find something that you enjoy. I am very excited for the full release and do intend to play through this one. It is on my wish list, and I suggest that it be on yours as well. Oh boy, Thaumaturge is a vibe. This is a CRPG with turn-based combat. It has some intricacies in the combat system specifically related to timing, and the spell system is quite weird as well. And man, is it just very weird in a very good way. It sets up a really interesting world and systems that are rare to see, and even less so this well done. 1906 Georgia with creepy demonology is such a strong setting, accompanied with great visuals and voice acting, and I mean, you get to talk a lot to Rasputin, who doesn't like that? I want to shout out the amazing soundtrack that sets the mood for all of the creepiness that is going on so well. It does give me some Disco Elysium vibes, but not to the extremes that Disco Elysium goes of the way that it actually tries to tell its story. This is maybe a little bit simpler, but it is very interesting. All you need to know is that you should try it out while you can. I think it's pretty great. Jusant is one of my most anticipated games of the year, and potentially my indie hit and my dark horse for something truly special. Even in the demo, there is a quality to Jusant that just feels like it should be a first-party major release from Sony, possibly thanks to the strong Team Ico or Team Ico vibes that it gives me. It looks beautiful, it plays beautiful, it sounds incredible, and despite it being a little bit simple so far, it is just the start of the game, it's already hinting at what complexities will be added later on into the gameplay. The game is mystical, magical, and marvelous, and I can't wait for its full release to give a proper in-depth analysis. Go play this demo, Wishlist Jusant. I think this is one to watch. And if you want to see my full-fledged analysis of Jusant when it does come out, remember to hit the like button, which helps this video reach more people, and to subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes out. My favorite part about Quantum Nights is when you shoot things with the shotgun and they fly off. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, look at how these guys fly after that shotgun blast. This game is an MMO, a shooter MMO, kind of something like Destiny, but combined with the progression systems that are typical in South Korea, so think about something like Lost Ark. It is also a live service, so even though playing the game and shooting things is pretty good, this is a very competitive environment where you need to be really successful to gain consumer trust, and I don't know if this will make it. If you, like me, enjoy being mentally abused by games as a service from time to time, and hate everything that you're playing right now because it's abused you too much, so you need to find something different, a little fresh to abuse you next, maybe this game has legs. I'm not sure. I don't have the time for this. It plays just fine, but be aware of what you're getting yourself into. The best part about BapBap is the name, because you get to say BapBap. And that's just fun to do. Like, try it out right now. Just say BapBap. That's fun. It doesn't matter how you say it. You could be like BapBap or BapBap, and it's fun. I'm rambling right now, despite this being a very time-limited video, because I have nothing really good to say about BapBap. The camera is too zoomed in. The mechanics are just a little bit too basic. It kind of made me claustrophobic. It's a very basic top-down MOBA-like game, but a battle royale. But it isn't battle right, and that makes me sad, so it loses points because of that as well. I don't recommend you play this one, but I don't know, it was pretty high up on the list and it's multiplayer, so I wanted to cover it. Storm Strikers is the only other multiplayer game in this video, and this one makes me sad for a completely different reason. I think this game is quite competent. It is a MOBA-like third-person shooter, you know, with abilities. You could also call it a hero shooter because it is essentially Overwatch, but third-person and Chinese, and the characters feel a little bit more kind of like a MOBA game. I don't know how else to describe it. And I actually think this game would be great if it were a more traditional 3-lane MOBA with creeps and economy and things like that. I'm an Overwatch addict, and I have played Overwatch for many years, and I like games that are similar to it just because I've played a lot of Overwatch. I think this one is pretty well made, and could be great down the line, but this is a multiplayer game banking on games as a service for its future, and as I've said before, that's not very likely. I have low hopes for its lifespan, but I do wish them the best because more competition in this space is always good, and I think it's a genre that's underrepresented, the more arcadey, ability-based hero shooter type of stuff. So, hey, there you go. Another Souls-like, but this time a little bit more whimsical, colorful, and platformer adjacent. This game is charming, full of character, with vibrant colors and a tone that just makes me happy. I love these sorts of games, and we need more of them. What's on offer here is a competent Souls-like with more mobility and some twists, with your shells being things that you constantly pick up and change that offer armor and abilities, as well as a grappling hook that also stuns enemies with limited uses. I felt like the difficulty was a bit high, but not from the game itself, like from the controls not being as tight as I expected. Maybe the animation commitment is too long, or the recovery time from actions was higher than I thought, or maybe it's just not as responsive as I wanted in general. The camera also felt kind of off very often, with some things like clipping still needing work, but overall it felt kind of unwieldy and made me a bit motion sick, which I normally never get in games. I'm confident those sorts of things will be shored up get it, before launch, and I have high hopes for this one. Also, there's tons of accessibility options. You love to see it, including the very viral clip where you can just equip a gun that one-shots everything. This is a charming game, and I have very high expectations for it. I recommend you go and wishlist it. Giving off the cozy rainy day and hot cocoa vibes is Europa, a relaxed platformer that takes cues from Journey and Studio Ghibli, and I bet that's enough for many to run out and wishlist it. The soundtrack, art, and animation are all to be commended here, and it's a perfect game to unwind to on a lazy, rainy Sunday afternoon. And I expect the same, but more of it, in its full release. Like all demos, small imperfections in movement did pop up. These aren't final games after all. And I think that the paper effect, which you can change in the settings, detracted from the visuals, but since I could turn it off, I was more than happy. The general movement, the feeling you get when gliding through the world, and collecting the different collectibles made me warm and fuzzy, and I am looking forward to the full release. Go give Europa a look. This has been your Mugthief ASMR session. Tevi is yet another Metroidvania, a genre much like Souls-likes that keeps on getting more and more games. Tevi has a really good game feel to it, and its combat and attacks with really polished effects and animations within its art style, which kind of gives me MapleStory vibes, or maybe something Toho related. In this oversaturated genre at this point, it takes something special to stand out, and while so far in gameplay Tevi isn't offering something that, is gonna change the game for me, I'm willing to give the full game a review later on, time willing, just because the soundtrack is so good that I want to live in it. Really, the amazing vibes on this soundtrack, along with a competent, polished game that just looks and feels good to play, is enough to get me interested and make me play through the whole thing. I recommend this and The Last Faith for your Metroidvania needs. My first experiences with Peripeteia was being confused, and then I was lost, and then I went out exploring and got trapped somewhere that I couldn't get out of, so I had to reload. On my second try, I received my first gun, and accidentally, instead of flipping it and putting it in my inventory, I threw it out of my inventory, and it clipped through the floor, disappearing forever. I then reloaded for a third time and actually made progress. And in case you haven't noticed yet, this is an immersive sim. This game has a lot of jank, but also a lot of charm, and a vision only possible in the ambitions of an indie immersive sim. Someone will make a 2-hour essay on this game one day. Will it be me? Maybe. I, however, cannot recommend this unless you're a fan of the genre, because you will have to tolerate a steep learning curve and the jank to get to probably some very interesting and cool ideas that the game houses, including the main protagonist Marie and how her abilities work. And I mean, immersive sims tend to be really deep and cool games, and it's difficult to make a game like this on a AAA budget, so an indie one is also very difficult. I can't knock the game for this, because it requires a lot of time and investment to really figure out, and this is a demo. I'm tentatively putting this on my wish list to figure it out later, but if you're an immersive sim fan, you have to put all of them on your wish list. It's part of being an immersive sim fan, so there you go. You can put this there and move on with your life. Star Ocean Second Story R is a very fancy remake of Star Ocean 2. I thought from trailers that the graphical style, which is the whole HD 2D thing but taken to a weird mix of pixel art over more traditional renders, would clash, but it works out well enough. I think I would get used to it over a playthrough. At least in the demo, as tends to happen to me when playing Star Ocean, it made me want to play a Tales of game instead. But it does have cozy JRPG vibes. It has good enough voice acting, and if you're a fan of older JRPGs and that kind of flow that they have, they're slow burns with these grand sweeping stories. I know a lot of people who say that they don't make them like they used to when it comes to JRPGs. You're going to be really happy that they're remaking this game to this level of quality and with this strange decision in the middle. It seems like a great modernized way to experience this game, but it is going to be one of those old games. So I give this one a be aware of what you're getting yourself into out of 10. Anima Flux is a 2D Metroidvania, focused more on the action and platforming part of this, and it seems fun enough, especially considering it has local co-op. And it definitely has production values for a while. I didn't find it very engaging though, despite all of its style points. The combat is its main selling point, and I found it to be kind of flat. Inverse of The Last Faith, where I think there's some polish missing, but the game is damn cool. This one seems to have polish, but something at its core is missing for my enjoyment. Kind of didn't set itself apart or have a strong identity, or maybe the combat just wasn't crunchy enough, or the feedback wasn't all the way there. I'll keep an eye on word of mouth on this game to see if it's got something that I just didn't see, playing a half-hour demo, but this one not at the top of my Metroidvania list at all. Enshrouded has been getting a lot of positive word of mouth throughout the Steam Next Fest, and even before that, since the demo released earlier, and for good reason. This is a survival crafting game, but it really is directly comparable to Valheim. It is Valheim with some additional twists. It specifically feels more like a third-person action game, a little bit more Zelda-y, maybe some more Souls-like inspired combat. It has a grappling hook. It has a glider. Every game needs one of those these days. And it gets those hooks in you, much like Valheim did, where you're just collecting resources and then processing them so you can build out your camp and get your next upgrade, and then go out exploring. It does have a stronger emphasis on pre-constructed areas in the world that feel more like dungeons or quest areas, and I do appreciate that. I think this could be great. It's still very early on and has a while, it needs to cook a bit, but definitely one to watch, especially if you liked games like Valheim. I love them, and I'm glad it's coming out later because I don't have the time to lose myself for 10 hours at a time building stuff right now. This is a really short demo, it's just one level, and this is of course a retro FPS. The Last Exterminator is very pretty, has great weapon reloads, good movement, good feedback, and some great level design in the one level we can play. It's filled with secrets, which is a must for a retro FPS. It's overall just really good, and there are a ton of people, including me, who love playing through these games, and I am very excited to play through the final version of this. Wishlisted it for sure. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. And this is exactly that. It's Deep Rock Galactic, but it meets a bullet heaven like Vampire Survivors. All the charm of Deep Rock with really well done survivor mechanics. There are a ton of these games, and I've played many of them. This one seems very well made, but until I get a better glimpse at the classes and the meta progression, I think this will be a lot of fun, but probably not the evolution this genre needs. If you like Deep Rock and the genre, or if you like Deep Rock and you don't know this genre, you will have a great time, no question. I give this one a rock and stone out of 10. The last entry might as well be the shortest because it's the Talos Principle 2, and I don't really know what I was expecting getting into it because it's like the Talos Principle, but more of it kind of like a sequel to the Talos Principle. The Talos Principle was an amazing game that is just surprising. I love the idea that Crow Team's magnum opus is actually a puzzle game, and a second part to it makes me very excited. I love solving a good puzzle, and I hope that this delivers. The demo is kind of the intro area, so doesn't inform us too much on how it's gonna change stuff up, but it seems very promising. And that was it. I said 20 games in 20 minutes, and that's what I managed to pull off. I hope you found this video entertaining and found some games that are worth your time, helped figure out exactly which ones are more appealing to you, which ones to wishlist, things like that. A lot of time went into playing all the demos and writing the script and, you know, doing all of the things necessary for this video, so I would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you like my content and are looking forward to more things like it. I've been Mugthief, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.